Lila the Witch and the Night of the Forbidden Cauldron. The Witch School of Darkstone was asleep. Well, almost all of it. The towers were quiet, the owls snored on the beams, and the floating candles blinked with sleep. But in dormitory number 7, the witch Lila was wide awake. She couldn't sleep. From far away, something strange could be heard. Plop, plop, plop. Lila sat up in bed. "That's not a leak," she whispered. Chispa, her broom, was resting against the wall. When she heard the sound, her bristles lifted nervously. Plop, plop. "It's coming from the old wing," said Lila, "and no one should be there at night." The witch school had many rules, lots of them, and one of the most important said, "Do not enter the old classrooms after dark." Lila hesitated for just 1 second. Then she smiled. "Let's take a quick look," she whispered. "Just a look." Chispa buzzed with excitement and slid under Lila's feet. They flew out the window without a sound and headed to the oldest part of the school. There it was, the Forbidden Cauldron classroom. A crooked sign on the door read, "Do not enter, not by day, not by night, not ever." "That usually means, enter carefully," murmured Lila. She pushed the door. Creak! Inside, the room glowed with a green light that moved up and down. In the centre, drawn on a circle on the floor, stood a huge ancient cauldron, cracked and glowing. "I didn't do anything," said Lila quickly, looking at Chispa. The cauldron answered with a louder plop. A bubble rose slowly, and when it popped, the classroom changed. The walls stretched, the ceiling spun like a carousel, and suddenly Lila was no longer in the classroom. She was in a very long hallway, full of identical doors. "Chispa," said Lila. "Was this here before?" Far away, a deep gong echoed like a giant bell. An ancient voice filled the air. "The night of the cauldron has begun. When the final gong sounds, the school will not wake up." "That sounds very bad," whispered Lila. The hallway began to move as if it were breathing. "Okay," said Lila. "Quick plan. Find the cauldron, close it, run." A door opened by itself. Inside was a classroom, doubled. 2 blackboards, 2 desks, 2 teachers snoring at the same time. Another bubble popped somewhere, and one blackboard grew chalky legs and ran away. "Hey!" shouted Lila. Chispa shot after it. They flew between floating desks. When they escaped the room, the hallway had changed again. Now it twisted like a spiral. "The school changes with every bubble," said Lila. "We have to hurry." The second gong sounded. Gong! The floor shook. They reached the hall of endless closets. Every closet opened into another one. Some held shouting hats, others capes that tried to wear themselves. A bubble popped, and Chispa was suddenly trapped inside a closet that slammed shut. "Chispa!" The closet began running across the room. "Stop right now!" Lila jumped on top, rolled, and opened the door just before it crashed into a wall. Chispa burst out, messy but happy. "We are never coming back here," said Lila, breathing hard. The third gong sounded deeper than before. "Gong!" "There's not much time left," whispered Lila. At the end of the next hallway, they saw the cauldron again. Now it floated on a platform surrounded by huge bubbles like balloons. Inside each bubble, a piece of the school was trapped. "If they all pop," said Lila. The cauldron bubbled faster. "We have to close it." Chispa pointed to an old lid leaning against the wall, marked with the same symbol as the cauldron. Together they lifted it. It was heavy. A bubble popped nearby. The floor vanished. "Now!" shouted Lila. Chispa jumped, Lila stretched, and together they slammed the lid onto the cauldron. Plop! Everything stopped. The bubbles deflated, the platform lowered, the green light faded, the classroom returned to normal. Silence. The final gong tried to ring. Clonk. Lila sat on the floor. "I think we did it." The cauldron went quiet again. From far away came normal sounds. Footsteps, laughter, a magical rooster singing at the wrong time. Lila and Chispa looked at each other. "No one needs to know," said Lila. Chispa lifted one bristle. They returned just as the sun rose over the towers. Back in bed, Lila closed her eyes and smiled. From the old wing, very softly, came one last plop. Luma, the unicorn who painted dreams. In a hidden valley, there lived a young unicorn named Luma. Her horn was no ordinary horn. It shone and changed colour depending on how she felt. Pink when she was happy, blue when she was calm, grey when she was angry, and golden when she was truly excited. Luma had a secret. Every night, she painted dreams in the sky. With a touch of her horn, candy castles appeared, dragons that tickled instead of breathing fire, or rivers filled not with water but with hot chocolate. Children slept happily under that spectacle. "Painting dreams," scoffed an older unicorn with a pompous voice. "Bah, that's useless." "Yes," added another. "Maybe then you'll stop having your head in the clouds." More laughter. "Well, technically I am in the clouds," replied Luma with a sarcastic little smile. The others laughed smugly and trotted away. Luma tried to laugh too, but something inside her shrank. That night, when she tried to paint, her horn barely released a couple of faint sparks. "Great," she muttered. "Now I'm officially a low-voltage unicorn lantern." She hid in the forest, her head down, and there she heard the deep voice of an old owl. "Well, well," he said from a branch. "And who is this little cloud with legs?" "I'm not in the mood, owl," Luma huffed. "That's obvious. Your horn looks like a burned-out bulb." Luma raised her head. "That's not funny." "It is to me," replied the owl, shrugging. "But the important thing is that your light depends on what you carry inside." At that moment, a sob interrupted the conversation. From the nearby village came the sound of a crying boy. "Mum says monsters don't exist, but I know that under my bed lives one with 7 eyes," he whimpered. Luma laughed without meaning to. "With 7 eyes, he'd have to go to the eye doctor every day," she whispered. The boy lifted his head, surprised. "Who's there?" "Just a unicorn who's bored," answered Luma, appearing by his window. The boy stopped crying, fascinated. "A real unicorn?" "Well, not really. I'm a bit weird," Luma admitted. And without thinking, Luma began to draw with her horn. Stars forming a shining shield. A dragon yawning from sheer sleepiness. Yawn. And a monster with 7 eyes, wearing pyjamas and holding a teddy bear. The boy laughed so hard that he forgot his fear. And at that moment, Luma's horn exploded in golden light so intense it lit up the whole village. The sky filled with even more beautiful dreams. A rainbow circling the world 3 times. Fish swimming among the stars. A floating castle full of swings. The boy, now calm, tucked himself under the blankets. "Thank you, weird unicorn." "You're welcome, scared human," she replied with a smile. That night, Luma understood that her power was not to impress the other unicorns, but to make laugh and dream those who needed it most. Cosmic Race 1: The Beginning. On planet Turbo X, mornings were never quiet. Every day, engines roared like lions, and the sky glowed with neon trails as racetracks twisted between metal mountains and lakes of shining oil. There lived the most amazing cars in the universe, and among them, 3 stood out from the rest. Ray, small, blue, and so fast that sparks chased him when he braked. Ray was pure energy. He lived for speed. But he had one flaw. He didn't know how to wait. He always started too early, always raced without thinking. "If you're not in front, you're already losing," he liked to say with an electric grin. Fury, a red, muscular pickup, wild and fearless. Her fire didn't just come from her engine, it burned in her heart. Sometimes her temper made her lose control, but no one was braver when the track was on fire. "No risk, no glory," she roared. Aero, a sleek silver car with retractable wings. While others sped ahead, he studied the wind, the terrain, the rivals. "You don't always win with your pedal," he said calmly. "Sometimes you win with your mind." They were inseparable friends. They raced for fun, not for trophies, but everything changed that night. The sky above Turbo X blazed with fiery letters. The Great Cosmic Race across the planets. "A race between planets!" shouted Ray, spinning with excitement. "Now this is a real challenge," said Aero, reading the floating coordinates. "And if we win?" asked Fury. "No," said Ray. "What if we enjoy it?" But among the racers answering the call, one wasn't smiling. From a cloud of black smoke emerged a car as dark as the void. His body reflected no light, and his red headlights glowed like burning coals. "Call me Shadow," he said, "and remember the name when I pass you." Ray's headlights flickered nervously. Fury's engine growled. Aero whispered, "That car doesn't race for fun. He races for something darker." The starting blast echoed, and the universe ignited. The racers shot through the first portal, bursting into an asteroid ring. Gravity shifted. Meteorites flew. Tunnels of energy shimmered. Ray dashed forward like a streak of blue lightning. Fury launched fireballs to clear her path through the debris. Aero soared above, gliding between drifting rocks. But Shadow didn't play fair. He released a trail of dark oil, jamming their sensors. "Let's see you race blind," he laughed. Ray spun out of control, nearly hitting an asteroid. "I can't see anything! Follow my heat!" shouted Fury, firing a flame ahead. The firelight pierced the smoke, showing the way. From above, Aero gave the signal. "Portal on the right, now!" On the other side, the finish line shimmered, a ribbon of light suspended over the void. Moments later, Shadow appeared, roaring in frustration. On the podium, the lights of distant planets reflected on their hoods. Ray trembled with excitement. Fury with joy. Aero. "Winning together, that's worth more than any trophy," he said. Far away, Shadow watched from a metal mountain, his red lights glowing faintly. "Enjoy your victory, champions. The next track will be mine." And with a he vanished into the darkness of space. That night, Ray couldn't sleep. He stared at the stars, thinking of Shadow's words. Something deep inside told him this race was only the beginning. Turbo X would again, and the engines of destiny had just started. Gelatin, the sticky little monster. Long before the Kingdom of Tornado spoke of great monsters and impossible storms, there was a hidden place underground called the Sweet Cave. No plants grew there, no animals lived there. What appeared were magic drops, soft and shining, born when a child somewhere in the kingdom made a true wish. Inside it beat a very simple wish: someone to play with. When the drop was ready, it slowly moved and came to life. That was how Gelatin was born. Gelatin did not walk, he bounced. He did not run, he jumped. And he never had just one shape. Sometimes he was round, sometimes stretched, just like all jelly things do. He was curious and kind, and he wanted to touch everything. The problem was that everything stayed with him. If he leaned on a rock, the rock came too. If he brushed against a firefly, The firefly did not let go. Gelatin always tried to help, but most of the time he ended up saying sorry. With time, Gelatin began to feel something strange. Even surrounded by drops and cave creatures, he felt alone. One night, after hearing 2 cocoons that he only wanted friends, Gelatin made a decision he had never made before. He would leave the cave. With one big, clumsy bounce, he left the sweet cave and reached the outside world. The sky was